right, good peoples. Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. Back at ya for ULTY. ULTY, since going weekly, is this boom or bust? It's had a sordid past. It has a reputation. Let's dig into it. I've been a little hard on it, so I wanted to go through things like I go through things and let the data and the analysis tell us. All right. So, what is ULTY for those of you, few people that don't know, or but maybe there's something you don't remember. So, this thing has had a sordid past. It's gone out with a lot of bad people. It must be a female and it likes the bad guy, right? The bad boy, because it's behaved badly. So, in the history, I don't even remember. I think they tried a few stocks and they tried synthetics and selling calls. And then they said, well, we want too many. We want to have 15 to 30 stocks. We can't do all that. So they moved to buy very high, super high IV stocks and buy the underlying and write covered calls. And so they stayed on that path. If anything, maybe the IV isn't as crazy high now because it really was boom and bust both before. You'd have 120% payout, but your NAV, 3 months later would be cut in half. So you got to remember all these stocks in ULTY's era and everybody else were back when they launched at $20. So Ultra is $6, but there was a lot of people that just loved it. Trying to report on it like a daily is a nightmare because I'm going to go through and show you the holdings and stuff. But you can report on it without, looking at every transaction. So before I dive into the holdings, let's talk. So it changed to weekly. Whoops. Now weekly. Okay. Paying since March 12th. The declaration was paid on the 14th, and from then on through current, it's paying weekly. And again, it still holds, I wouldn't say the highest IV stocks, but very high IV stocks. Implied volatility, guys, which in turns tells you what the option price premiums are. So something else to look at, I try to get this updated. I was using stock analysis, I think is the name of it. And these aren't really correct. I mean, it's almost like they grab 1 month or one period of time and then projected it. But this should be like over the last year or something like that. The expense ratios and these numbers are, they're about 5 days behind. 3 to 5 days behind the assets on these individual companies. But that's close, right? So instead of giving you all 49, I think 50 now, I just thought I would show you the top 10, and I'm reporting on ULTY, right? You guys know I love Pulte, and there's a lot of popular ones here, starting with Misty the goat, right? 4.4 billion out of what are they, 12 now? They were 1193. I didn't bring that over, but I think it's high 12s, mid to high 12s now. So it's back to, it's still a third, guys, a little more than a third for Misty. But as you come down, Misty, NVIDIA, Coney, Tesla, I'll talk about the underlying. So MSTR, NVIDIA, Coinbase, Tesla, all of the funds, right? That's what the universe fund of funds. So it owns all 50 now, used to be 49. Then Palantir, and then ULTY. So they're moving on up. And then YMAG, the Magnificent Seven, Amazon, SMCI is the underlying. Okay. So what I thought I would do is this isn't the right number. They're not averaging 145%. They may have been, they clearly had some months paying that out. and they had a high average, but like I said, they'd pay you 60 cents, they'd pay you 80 cents, they'd pay you 30 cents. You never knew what you were going to get with ULTY. Now it's more stabilized. So I took the dividend data over the last period of time since they were weekly. All right. So I took it over 312. It actually works out to like 90 days. So when I do my annual projection, it's all good. So you see 10.3, 9.8, 9.9, call it 10 cents. So 10 cents, 10 cents, 9 cents, 8 cents, 8 cents, 8 cents, 9 cents, 12 cents, 10 cents, 10, 10, 10. It depends if you want to round up or round down. All right. So taking all of those, looking at what was it priced at when this started on the weeklies, right? And I take the day before the declaration because declaration can cause people to jump in. They go, oh, that's a good payout. I want it. So when you don't know yet, I always take the day before when I'm doing this type of stuff. When I'm doing my own personal estimates and I do them over the weekend, then I take the Friday close. But in this case, I take really the close on the day before the declaration. So I've got all your dates here. So this would be a 6.3, this would be a 5.27, this would be a 5.20 closing price. So I said we started at 6.40, we're at 6.24. So it's lost on a negative, okay, minus 2.5. So we then have minus 10.14 when you annualize that. But you can even work with this. So over 90 days, that's not the kind of NAV erosion we were having before, guys. This thing was going down 35% a year. And so I'll give it's stabilized. More stable now. Now 90 days doesn't make a 2-year trend, but let's hope for the best. Okay. How's the yield? Well, I simply added all these numbers and divided by 13. These are the actual yield on cost the day before declaration. Okay. And what did they pay? And look at 52 payments. So then you get your yield. Where was that 12 pay? That price must have been high. I thought 11.8. Okay, yeah, that's the 103 one. All right. So even more, certainly more stable. I don't see anything below 70%, and I don't see anything over 103. And even the 70s is like 75 is a low. So the average, I just took the average of these 13, added the total, divided by 13. Again, do you want the median? Do you want the average? Okay. So 81 and a half. So I said, okay, if the last 90 days is projected out 1 year, this gives you annualized. You don't even really need to do that on a yield. You can just say, well, if it keeps doing that, it's going to be 81. And it's done it for 3 months. There's no reason it won't be close to that. Maybe it's 84, maybe it's 75. So I said, if the NAV loss is restricted to 10% with a dividend yield of over 80, that gives you a total return of 70%. So I'd be happy personally with 70%. And let's go through the holdings now, because this is going to talk to a lot about how these guys, it's a lot of work. I think Jay said one time, I haven't watched any recent interviews in quite a while with Jay, so you guys can comment. I think he said that they had 3 fund managers on ULTY. I could see it but it might not be true today. I don't know. But a lot of it was selecting. First off, I learn a new company every time I come in here. CoreWeave, hyperscaler. You know, you look at that chart and it's like, oh my gosh, AppLovin has been in the news. Actually, They thought they were going to get in the S&P 500. It was announced that maybe they were, and they and Robinhood, right? Hood, both moved up pretty aggressively only to begin to sell off because it doesn't look like they're going to be added. So that's just the beginning. So they do very high volatile. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some because remember, they're buying the underlying. Now, what's positive about buying the underlying is you can try and do it again. But you also can just get your nice little, whatever percent by writing the call and getting called out, and then you got to go buy it again. But that's okay too. This applied digital, it's just amazing what all these companies do. Let's go through a couple more. AST Space Mobile, right? So those guys are a satellite company. What does AppLovin do? Well, it primarily provides technology platform for mobile app developers. You got a lot of mobile apps going on with the phone use. So AST Space Mobile, I mentioned satellite, but what do they do within satellites? Well, they're a designer and manufacturer based in Texas, Midland, Texas. All right. Coinbase, I think a few of you probably know that if you've bought Coney, right? What else do we got? This is CoreWeave, the hyperscaler. eToro. Okay, guys. I'm going to ask you, do you know what eToro does? I didn't, but I do now to prepare for this video. They're an online trading and investing platform that allows users to trade stocks, cryptos, ETFs, and other financial instruments, which is one of the reasons why when people hit me up in my comments one time about, I was talking about how to select the right ETF. And if you're selecting an income ETF, how do I go about selecting it? What do I look for? And they all said, oh, you didn't mention Carvana and you didn't mention Hood. My big issue with those, yeah, they're on fire. But if I come out and talk positive, people are going to buy that at the top and then it's going to drop 30%. Secondly, I don't think they have intellectual property in either one of those companies. Bottom line, they sell used cars online. There's CarMax, and they can be the best widget in the world, right? They can differentiate because they'll actually come out and look at your car if you want to sell your car or take it in their inventory or what. And I get it that somebody, and Robinhood has its appeal. But the truth is, look at eToro. I didn't know them, right? I don't keep up with all the brokers. I have 3 different brokers that I'm with, but I'm not really looking to go to anybody else or add, even if it might help me a little bit right now. Busy with other things. So my point is, you don't have something unique. It's not Starbase. It's not, a hyperscaler that's the best and fastest out there. It's not a Palantir. It's not a Snowflake. There's some people that just do really, really good things with software, and there's not many other people that can get there. But the minute you get as a mass appeal to retailers, it's much harder to, I think, to maintain that kind of growth because somebody will just come in and attempt to do exactly the same thing. All right. So First American Solar, or First Solar, sorry, I was looking at First American Government, the money market guys where you park cash. First Solar, they're kind of back and moving. GameStop, oh my God, you talk about volatility. Him and hers, right? Beauty products, health. I was amazed. I first learned about them because ULTY was buying them like a year plus ago. There's Robinhood, speaking of the devil, IONQ, Mara, Labu, a lot, MicroStrategy, a lot of digital miners. NVIDIA, Okla. How many of you know what Okla does? Well, I will tell you. Okla is a company that develops and deploys next generation fission fission reactors to produce clean, reliable, and affordable energy. Well, guys, I think you get it that we're taxed in our energy system because of AI and a lot of other things. And the rest of the world is emerging. So you're talking about, I mean, we consume more electricity per person than anybody in the world in America. And, emerging countries are all growing. The Chinas and Indias, they're doing everything they can because their populations are, 4 times that of the US. So their average person's consuming a lot, but they want to consume a lot more. They want all the things that the better first world countries have. So energy demand is there. Nuclear is one of the most efficient ways to go, period. I'm very bullish on anything, and we're finally seeing that turn. We were beat down in nuclear, and now my ETFs and a few individual stocks that I have, they've all turned and they're heading back up. And I think this is a nice wave up and should last for a while. So that's Oakland. You got Oracle, Palantir. I like that. So I mean, they don't mess around. They go Reddit, Rigetti Computing. How many of you know what Rigetti Computing does? Quantum computing, peoples. Very high end quantum computing. What else do I see in here? Super Micro. To me, they're still a hardware player. I mean, not that that's bad. They do a really good job. The CEO's brother or something is over in Taiwan, and he talks with the tech companies in Silicon Valley and the public, and they figure out how to supply. And I mean, it's a little bit of Jensen Huang at NVIDIA. He's similarly set up with and connected back through Taiwan. And Taiwan, no doubt, on the chip side is massive. So um, Tempest. Oh, I didn't mention TQQQ, guys. So a 3x, right, on the QQQs. Tesla. All right, I think enough on that, guys. So bottom line, here is my analysis. My analysis says kudos. I mean, I'm not going to run out and make it my largest fund in Max, but I'm going to say, hey, everybody kept saying maybe they'll stabilize. I mean, 3 months is not a year, but it's definitely in the right direction. I can take I always say this to you guys. If you get a 100% yield and you have a 30% NAV erosion, everybody hates that. Why do you always talk about NAV erosion? It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but when the math works, 100 minus 30 is 70. I'll take 70. Hell, I'll take 81 minus 10, and I would love 71. My issue here is since they're in these super volatile stocks, they're maintaining it, and there's a reason that those stocks are volatile and what they do and their earnings, and some are in new niches, others are just earning a lot and kind of the popular go-to company. Does him and hers burn out? Does 2 years later there's four better companies in that arena, or do they have a long stretch to run? I mean, sometimes you get a Chipotle, it's just a restaurant. Somebody will come in and knock it off. Well, Chipotle's really been a very successful. I haven't looked at it in 6 months, guys. I mean, but my sense is that's still doing well. I really, if I say that and the stock's been down 30 or 40%, then I apologize. But there are some exceptions, but you don't always know. All right, that's what I got for you. Hopefully that helps. I know it's popular. Please like, please subscribe, and comment. All right, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Bye for now.